start to look at this movement, and it really is a movement toward social enterprise, from the standpoint of what it's all about, what people are trying to accomplish and what it is. If you think of a continuum for a minute, on this end of the continuum you'd have a for-profit company. And I think it's folly to believe that for-profit companies never do anything good. They certainly do. They employ people, they drive the economy, they create wealth, but they're not typically known for social measures or doing good things. In fact, you could likely lose your private sector business if that's what you did, because your shareholders wouldn't be too happy about the fact that you weren't generating profit. When you move to the middle of this continuum, you move to a space that's kind of iffy, in which people begin to think that business might be different than what it has been in the past. And so millennials specifically, those people under 35, are very driven to create for-profit businesses that have a social good connected to them. And so a lot of people have created private sector businesses without all of the language and the special designations that get that work done. The difficulty comes when you need capital for those businesses, because capital is what actually drives the generation of business. Now go all the way to my right side, your left side of the continuum, and you would have the traditional nonprofit or not-for-profit business. So here's the issue to think about for a minute. If we get to a place where we're trying to build a better planet, whatever your vision of a better planet is, and we need to provide things for people and make a profit to be able to do it, both sides of this continuum do that very well, and they've done it in the economy very well for a long time. The problem is now we're facing global challenges that are a lot more complicated than they used to be. It's not what it once was, where we could take apart a problem and pick the smallest one we could get our hands around and go fix it. Or we could dismantle a service or a manufacturing process and pick one thing we like to do and make a profit at it. And so what all this is really about is about directing capital to things that matter. And so for a minute, many people in the room are entrepreneurs, or you might be social entrepreneurs, you might be nonprofit executives or people involved with nonprofits. For a minute, I'm going to put $1 million in everybody's pocket and make you all investors. Put an investor's hat on now. Now, as an investor in the room, if I came to you and said, I have a brilliant opportunity for you as an investor, and what I need is half of your $1 million, and what we're going to do is make widgets, and we're going to make a lot of money at these widgets, and when we make a lot of money, we're going to turn around and we're going to give some of that money back, and we're going to begin to help people who are homeless and who don't have access to things that the rest of us have. As an investor, which part of that equation would you be really excited about? Probably about the money-making piece, because that's why you're putting your money in, so you can get some money back. But on the other side of that, if I need to employ people in this community and I need to engage people to like my product and bring other people to buy my product, after a while they're going to begin to look at me and they're going to say, is your product doing more harm to the community than it's doing good? So you might be profitable and I might be happy to be a stockholder, but if all your employees can't afford to buy a house, or they can't afford to buy medical insurance in Central Florida, then maybe we need to rethink whether or not you're doing business at the best place you can. So the for-profit sector has been wrestling with this for a long time. Most of their capital says, I really don't want you doing good things, I want you making money, because that's the equation. It's called equity. On the nonprofit side, we do a lot of good work, and then we go to the marketplace and we say to people, this is good, you should support it. But the problem is there aren't as many people supporting as there are equity investors, thus the capital problem. So if just for a minute we stop talking in terms of language, and I'm going to give you just a broad example of how to do that. In reality, a social entrepreneur is really just someone who brings a private sector set of strategies that are business-based to a social problem. That's all it is. It really doesn't matter under which umbrella you do it. It doesn't matter if you're making money or not making money doing it. It's that you're entrepreneurial enough to figure out a solution to the problem. And by the way, let me just remind you that the nonprofit sector is called the third sector, or economists call it the independent sector, because it was designed specifically to be the creative and innovative sector. It's the only one of the three sectors, private, public, and independent. The independent sector is the only one of the three sectors that isn't driven by money. Its job is to find ways to solve problems. If we all worked at one of the Motorola plants that used to make those fancy flip phones before the smartphones took over and put them out of business, the day those phones stopped selling, we all packed our briefcases and went home because our job was done. The market was over. But if you help the homeless, or you feed people who need food, or you clothe people who don't have clothes, and somebody doesn't make a donation, if you're Julie Colombino and you don't have enough money, do you stop and go home? No, you get creative and innovative and you find new ways to do it. So I want you to think for a minute about social enterprise as now the place in the middle and not the place on either end. This is a place in which we can bring capital from both sides of this equation. So you want to put equity into a company that's going to make some money? You're in. And we're going to take that money and we're going to create profit out of it, and then we're going to take some or all of that profit and we're going to apply it on the other side to something that creates a social good. At the Central Florida Foundation, we've identified more than 75 companies in Central Florida that meet the social enterprise platform. I'm not talking about the ideas that are in your head right now. I'm talking about operating companies that are doing this work today. And they are profitable and they are moving forward. I would say to you that Central Florida is now and will be in the future a hotbed for both social entrepreneurialism, but more importantly for social enterprise. That ability for us to create business models that are profitable and have social measures that are as important as the balance sheet measures. Now, look, this is important because when equity investors get lined up behind a business idea, they might tend to say, I love this social stuff. Can we just put a damper on that for a minute? We need a little more equity to bring more capital. And of course, those of us who are donors or philanthropists on the other side, we might say, hey, this profit thing is good, but can we feed a few more people today in order to do this? And so a social entrepreneur has to be, as you've heard Julie Colombino and you'll hear others tonight, really a master of that balance, of remembering that the social measures are as important as the profit measures, and you can't let either one of them slip. Because if the profit goes away, the social goes away, and if the social gets too big, the profit will be in jeopardy. And so just for a minute, I want you to think about this process of blending all three of these sectors together. And let's stop thinking about what sector you're in. Let's stop thinking about whether you're for-profit or non-profit, or whether you qualify here or you qualify there. And let's start talking about building enterprises that actually have balanced measures across the board. Because I've got news for you, whether you're an equity investor or you're a charitable investor, it really doesn't matter to you. You have in your mind a set of things you have to get in return for your investment. And trust me, I know charitable investors that are as difficult as equity investors, and they will wrestle you to the mat to get one more thing that they need from you. So what we need to do is start to create businesses, and whether you're under 35 or over 35, everybody needs to be creating businesses that now get to the heart of all investors. And then we'll use these structures, a B Corp, some states we have L3Cs, in some states we have even more qualified kinds of balance strategies in which we take on a measurement or an accountability. We can always build structure to meet an investor's need, but that only works if all of us in this room are investors. I don't care what kind of an investor you are, but you can't sit on the sidelines and wait for things to happen. You have to get out into the marketplace and figure out what's your passion and how do you make that passion work at the end of the day. And this community, I'll tell you, a year from now will be on the map in America as a place that not just starts social enterprises, but I think we have the root system here to have them grow. This isn't about creating jobs like we do purely in the private sector, where we hope after we create them they don't pick up and move away to Austin because it's cooler there. What we want are enterprises that start here, put their roots down, and then stay here. And one of the things you'll know and hear from the people in the room who run social enterprises, they're dedicated. They're global businesses that operate here, well-rooted, and they expect to stay here. But we all, as customers and investors, have to continue to support these businesses. And what I think you're going to see is very clear. The statistics are clear that everybody under the age of 44, that would be about 67% of the people who live in Central Florida, by the way, are very focused on rewarding businesses that have roots in social causes. They get that it's important to make money, but when you make that money, you need to make sure that you give a little of it back, that you're doing something that matters, and that you're not doing more damage for the profit than you're doing good with the good. So I would say you're in the right place at the right time. It heartens me to see all of these people here tonight and all of this interest in social enterprise.